So, everyone that looks at that, it's like, why are we listening to a bunch of those? It's like, no, you have to understand. This is
I appreciate the fact that the steel filter just slammed down over the top of this conversation. So, that was amazing.
it's
But
important.
yeah,
How much was
I
that going to slip through?
we needed those $5 of,
Nobody cursed
monetization this
yet.
episode. Yeah. Yeah. Andreas, go. Oh, okay. Yeah. That was almost close, and then I think there was a bit of Finnish or German or like Russian in there.
Andreas. You said Andreas. So
Yeah.
good finish.
Oh, he's a Finn now. Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
Well, he hasn't been on camera for a long time. I feel like he does have fins.
He's a Jan now, so to make it topical. Okay, but so
not white enough.
We're gonna skip. Stop it. We're gonna skip all this stuff before people figure out what we're not talking about. So last week, because this is how Jim Butcher always does it, I feel like he's got a calendar of our shows and he only releases news on off weeks for us. But they finally released the art for 12 months. Official release date is January 20th of 2026. So, go reserve your copy or whatever you do. Like, I'm not your mom or your dad. And yeah, there's art of him with the hat and a staff and standing in front of a monolith of some kind with what I say is Ouroboros behind him. Yeah.
Why is it an Ouroboros? Because it doesn't.
What other shape would it be? So
something else. I mean, just the insistence that it's an Ouroboros.
Yeah. Because I've got to make a stand, and that was an easy one to take, and no one else has taken it, so I took it. So,
well, it seems like a lot of people have just decided that it's an Ouroboros, and it's just like you see like two swirls. You don't see how they connect or don't. It just it seems like a leap.
So they're just two.
So the usual
right on the rock. They're two independent circles.
Who knows? You don't see how they connect.
Yeah. All I hear is complaints and excuses instead of a competing opinion. So
there's actually a thin line that you can't see yet. So he's really an anime character, and he's going to do that eyeglass push-up thing when he's smirking and about to make a point.
See, that's a counterpoint. It's ridiculous, but it's there.
Okay. But it's as valid as the Ouroboros. Until or unless
it really isn't. I mean, if we're going to talk about statistical probability, I think the Ouroboros is a safe bet.
We're not. We're talking about magical wizards in a place that none of us have been
who have never seen an anime, by the way. Like, he's never even seen anything inspired by an anime.
He could have seen Speed Racer. He's of that age.
Yeah, but he wouldn't call it that. He would call it a cartoon.
Though, like,
he was just where did he watch the TV store when he was a kid? Just the same way that he watched Knight Rider.
Okay. So I don't want to hear that I was being ridiculous. That's all. That's what I'm hearing.
He watched it in front of the Circuit City like every other homeless person.
Oh, geez.
God.
Probably, God, I want to say Radio Shack, but like just because Radio Shack was before that and after.
Sure. I don't know how much they had of TV displays, though. Like, I picture that as stuff as like the Wiz for whatever reason.
Okay. But was Circuit City in the Wiz?
Well, they're two different stores, but yeah.
Okay.
They were both appliance electronics though, back when that used to be a thing.
So there you have it. The two leading theories are Ouroboros, which is perfectly reasonable and statistically likely, and anime glasses with whatever this is.
I guess I'm just
time traveling Murphy came back in time with a magical TV.
Do not lump me in with that nonsense.
It's as crazy a theory as I've ever heard.
No, it's not, because I'm not writing it up on or anything. I'm just saying it.
I did say heard. I didn't say read.
Yeah, irrelevant.
That's the difference.
once I put finger to keyboard or pen to paper on it, then it becomes ridiculous. Stop it.
Yes. I don't know who Rishad is, but sure.
You know what? Rishad is more likely to be Odin than Rashid is. So yes, I agree with that statement.
Right.
Yeah,
based on the probabilities here as we go again.
Yeah. We've talked about this. Okay. Every character is Rashid because it's the, immortal electron or whatever the theory is, the quantum electron. So he is simultaneously every character. So
I think those went away with Radio Shack. They don't exist anymore.
Those electrons?
Yeah.
Because it's only one electron. theoretically. in the
1,
theory.
5, however many
So-
there are, they're not there.
Okay, so exhausted all that nonsense and we could get started then.
There's a picture. Cool. Yay.
Yep. Go read it. It was in People magazine, so go read the thing. So he'll give you a synopsis that tells you not very much more than what we already knew. So yeah, tell us more things. Read 4 chapters. Do something. Can it be January already? Okay. So last time we ended up at McAnally's talking to the Fae Queens, both of them, both Maeve and Lily.
Ladies.
Yeah, but same difference, but yes, ladies is more precise. So they are still also queens.
Yes,
They're just
sure,
the queens to be. So like I said, yes, you're
neither
more
of them
precise.
will be.
Congratulations. Yikes. You're just going to go there, huh?
Spoiler alert.
Jeez. All right. So Maeve totally didn't lie to tell Dresden that Mab is crazy. And that's not even a chicken that's going to come home to roost for like 6 books, something, not 6, it's like 4 books, 5 books, something like that. So
this is book,
they're just going to build it up.
Is 14, right? So
Mab is crazy,
5.
Yeah.
5 books? Is this book 8 or 9?
8.
This is 8.
8.
Yeah.
8. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, math is hard. So
we didn't even have to use one here.
Our second hands or take off our socks. So all right.
Speak for yourself.
So that's what's happening. 2 little nuggets. Dresden finishes it off thinking to himself that was hardly like pulling teeth at all, which is your clue that maybe, despite the fact that they literally cannot lie, maybe somehow they weren't quite on the level, because at the best case, they're still Fae and they're going to misrepresent information, right? And then also this little nugget that I put in my notes because, it just makes sense to do so. But Mac can sometimes be downright angelic. Just saying. So I think it'd be funny now in the moment. It'd be funny if every time we had him on there, we had like a lens flare behind him, and just
on
be
a
like
shiny ball head.
Yeah, just like an inexplicable, like, luminous halo. So just, and when you finally do it and all of your friends are like, dude, I've been telling you for like 6 seasons, come on. So
can we get one of those
by the time we get there,
those cheap like a Budweiser sign or whatever beer logo we can have a halo just as the only thing illuminated behind him,
right? Like we'll find some design, right, fitting for a bar. Now it'd have to be like old school neon might work, but not like anything modern, obviously, because wizards. So even though Mac can keep stuff running because he knows the rules. So but
also he's just kind of low tech. So I like the idea of an old school neon sign, but I don't know.
So maybe just like an old metal sign with like an old, those things used to exist.
Sure. I mean, he's got to have a fan above him or something. I don't know. Whatever. We've digressed enough. So chapter 21. He's going to SplatterCon, and it is, not spelled correctly unless you have the 3 exclamation points. But we're going back after, I want to say it was after already we had the first attack, right? We dealt with, Rosie and Pell and, went to the hospital and all of that stuff. So now it's a circus, not a convention. There's cops everywhere, the media zoo. The attendance has doubled because of the press that it's getting. Green called in the feds, which means Rick is now going to be in attendance. And then Dresden, let's see. Dresden wants to build, wards around the con, but not really realistic. Some of this comes out through conversation with Bob, and some of it is just his
because Bob is tagging along this time.
Yeah, I believe he's picked him up by now. So, I think he's talking to Murphy. Right. Okay. So he's talking to Murphy about maybe doing wards and says, yeah, not really, but I've got an idea. They're talking about Green's theories, which Murphy at least gives Green the benefit of the doubt that it's like he's a good detective. He has to assume something or he's got nothing to work with and is going to look incompetent and crazy. So he's trying to pin it on like Nelson, for example, because Nelson is the only odd man out as far as suspects go, even though there was no presence. He probably has an alibi and it's never going to stick. He's primary suspect because he was around during another attack, you know. Brioche did the autopsy because, you know, high press probably, right? So Butter's not really involved even. And then they're talking about something like, it's not like the bad guy's just going to advertise, like, just trust your instincts. And both Murphy and Mouse go, huh? And they look right at Darby Crane, you know? And so it was like, oh, we should chase that guy. So they start trying to push through the crowd, and Murphy's 5'0", and she's trying to crowd surf without, you know, waving a gun around, or, you know, she's not big enough to do the Fezzik, everybody move. So she's moving and whatever, and Darby Crane's going to escape to an elevator, except that he's being chased by a wizard, so he isn't. So Dresden does Hexus, and, you know, there's cool description and stuff like that. But so we catch up to Crane, physical description. Crane was a surprisingly good-looking man, slender, stark cheekbones, and his demeanor was more like an actor's than that of somebody on the production side. His dark hair was in a short, neat cut, dark eyes, deep set and opaque, and he carried himself in a posture that read nothing but relaxed non-aggression. Before I'd finished looking him over, I was sure that the whole thing was a calculated lie. There was a cruelty lurking below the calm of his features, contempt hiding within the modest posture of his body. As Murphy approached, he stepped out of the elevator, frowning at the smoke. His eyes snapped to her and around the hallway at once. There were several other people standing not far away outside of a guest room with an open door. So, you know, he's like, oh, are there witnesses? You know, but some fun stuff for like the actor. It'd be like, can you look like simultaneously not threatening and a predator at the same time? Like, I don't know. So, but they're talking and chit-chatting and everything like that, and then someone shoved open a door that showed a set of stairs behind it, and a small man in an expensive gray suit emerged from it. He was sort of frog-faced. He had the mouth of someone much larger than he, almost grotesquely thick and wide. He had a fine black hair, all limp and stringy, and someone had cut it with the ancient but trusty salad bowl method. He had bulgy, watery eyes and required extra large, wide-rimmed glasses to properly encircle. Now, this is the risk that I find sometimes with casting and that sort of thing, right? Because you want to cast somebody that looks spot on, but I always feel for the ones where it was like, we need to find like a wildly overweight, hideous looking, you know, frog monster looking dude, or you know, like
those actors need work too.
I know
that's what the paycheck's for.
The same thing with Merle, or the same thing with Fix or whatever, but at least Fix is like, you know, the summer night and whatever. But seriously, I can't think of anybody but Danny DeVito to play this guy. So I'm just saying, like, I love Danny DeVito to death, and that's why I'm like, it's gonna sound like an insult but tell me he ain't perfect, you know.
I was gonna say, he played the Penguin. At this point, right, he's lost all.
He has the stringy bowl cut hair,
right?
Like, just,
well, he doesn't have any hair anymore, so
yeah,
we're gonna have to put him in a wig,
maybe, and that won't be his first time in a wig either. Like, let's be honest. So, you know. Yeah. All right. So, all right. So they get there, and, you know, Glau, as we find out, right, obviously, he's all uptight because he's a lawyer, and, you know, his client is talking to a cop, right? So he has all the appropriate, like, is he being detained? Is he being arrested? And Murphy is playing, you know, the innocent, you know, cop routine of like, oh no, that'd be ridiculous. Why would he possibly be, you know, a suspect and all of this other stuff? But Crane starts, you know, over the course of the conversation, starts putting the whammy on her a little bit, at least potentially. Like, Harry doesn't say he picks up on it, like overtly in a magical sense, but he does intercede and whatever, which I think we've got this. So the next section, you know, let's see. So yeah, so Crane is apologetic for Glau because of how Glau is bulldogging Murphy right now, and then he, you know, he nods at Glau and says, "But if you would permit it, perhaps you would let me get you a drink of something later this evening by way of apology." Yeah, and it's like Murphy's hesitating because she's like, "This feels like a trap," but he's so nice, you know, and it's odd because it's like, we know because we've read this a bunch of times that this guy is White Court and everything like that, and it seems so obvious now, but at the time they have no idea and everything like that. And it's like he's so well connected inside the house. It's like no, nobody would know that story. Never mind. I retract where I was going with that, because I was like, he'd have to have heard of Murphy, but he wouldn't, because then people would know that like Lord Wraith isn't Lord Wraith, and nobody knows that.
Oh, they know.
So
he knows. He's just not going to reveal that he knows, because he was one of the ones that Lara had to get the support of for her to remain in power, and that's why Thomas had to be cast out, because he's one of the twins.
Okay. All right. So yeah, he might know who Murphy is, right? So anyways, he reaches out a hand. Murphy hesitated, which wasn't much like her. I don't know, she said. Crane extended his hand to her to be shaken, still smiling. If you still had questions, I'd be happy to answer them then. Please, as a token of my intentions, I insist. I would hate you to have the wrong impression of me. Murphy gave him a look of wary amusement and lifted her hand. I'm not sure how I got across that much carpet that fast, but I put my hand on Murphy's shoulder and gripped lightly just before she touched him. She froze, sensing the warning in the gesture, and drew her hand back. Crane's eyes narrowed, studying me, his hand still sticking out. And who is this? Harry Dresden. Crane went still. Not still like people go still, where you could still see them blinking and swaying slightly and adjusting their balance. He went still like corpses and plastic dressing dummies and said nothing. So, he recognizes him. Yeah, as I am a highly experienced investigator, I drew the conclusion that he recognized the name. So, Froggy made a gulping sound in his throat, bulging eyes switching to me. I thought he shrunk in on himself a little, as if suddenly losing an inch or two of height or tensing to crouch. He recognized it too. I felt famous. So, yeah, Mouse let out a relaxed ripsaw of a growl so low it could hardly be heard. Yeah. So anyway, tension, so they all, Crane and Murphy still smiled their professional smiles. Froggy looked frog-like. So description, you look like a frog. Good. So, let's see. So, yeah, Murphy's like, what was that all about? Dresden's like, we almost started a fight. I noticed, but why? So he's spooky. I told you, spooky. Other than that, I don't know. So, yeah, so something felt wrong, etc. So now we know Crane is a thing. He is now a person of interest as far as Harry's concerned, right? Because, why is somebody spooky running around a spooky convention, right? Like, who would have thunk? So,
oh, that's where all the spooky victims are,
right? Yeah, I realize if I read from my notes directly, we're never going to get through this, so I'm going to start skipping and hopping around a little bit. But
like a frog,
right? Ribbit. So Murphy and Dresden walk around the convention using blue Play-Doh to set up a web, or at least put anchor points for a web, and then Dresden for defense. So yes, and she's like, really? And it's like, yes. Well, at least for me, so we get to explain that it's like, because magic and symbolism are intrinsically linked, and he thinks that it works that way, therefore it works that way for him, so, hopefully colorblind wizards don't have that same limitation. So, let's see. Yeah, so a lot
of why they don't make it very far, because they switch the red and the green.
right. It's like, and gray for defense, and it's like, shit, anyway, so yeah, he explains that whole thing, other colors, greens, etc. Let's see. Oh, and then they find out, Sandra catches up to them and tells him that, they're interrogating Molly. Green and somebody else, which we'll find out in 5 minutes is Rick. So Dresden takes off his pack, gives Sandra a piece of paper with two names and numbers on it, and then says, call both of these people. What do I tell them? The truth. Tell them what's going on, and that Harry Dresden said they needed to get down here immediately. So
this is a very smart thing for him to do. like
Right?
admittedly.
He gets one
Yeah.
every 3 books.
Yeah. No, I
Yeah,
mean he
this-
he does all right this book. He's still an idiot a lot of times in this
Yeah.
book, but this is one of the smart ones, because then he immediately goes and gets the press, but
Mhm.
a press that he can trust, and he knows it's also a bulldog, So
And she never shows up again.
yeah, I was thinking about that too. I was like,
Like,
Oh,
That's
neither
kind of
does
a
described
Sandra.
as somebody who
character.
comes back. Like that we get a
Right.
like good paragraph of her description and her like some of the accomplishments she's done or whatever, and she just never is seen
she
again.
didn't get the Butters treatment. So Butters was also supposed to be a throwaway character, and everybody loved him so much. That's why he's got a lightsaber now. But
Well, the
Lydia
last
Stern,
time Harry kept around a slightly darker skinned reporter,
he knows this. You don't need to bring that up every time. He's also never allowed to date cops or wardens again. Okay, so what's left?
His apprentice.
So, yeah,
it's first of all, she's his boss now.
yeah.
She was a DEI hire.
Is it still a conflict of interest if she was his apprentice and now she's his boss? And
Nope.
or does that mean
Power dynamic has shifted. It's all fine
Oh.
now.
Yeah.
I guess.
Not to mention, we also know that's a bad idea. If he likes his spine where it is, nicely healing as it is.
Yes.
He doesn't know that yet.
Right. We know that. That's why I'm saying. So anyway.
Also, his spine's already gone through it. What's the big deal?
Right.
I mean,
so
I'm not gonna. Nope. Shutting up. Mm-mm.
sure. Okay. So anyways, Lydia Stern, formidable woman, got her description. She's, short, Asian, plump. I didn't necessarily directly have anybody in mind. There were like 2 people coming in mind, but partially just because she plays the lawyer in Murderbot. But I imagine Lydia with hair. So, like if that's a deal breaker, then we'll have to get a wig or something. I also, for some reason, have like a plump Lucy Liu in mind, but
I was going to say Ken Jeong.
So, okay.
Because why not?
So.
It would be funny to have this convention just like a bunch of celebrities as cameos.
Right. Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, we have an unlimited
walking
budget,
in the background
right?
as Spike. It just why not?
Right.
Well, obviously Marsters is Crane if he's not Bob or Dresden, because that's the other thing.
That
it's
too.
like you guys want, So
But
he could totally do it. He's already been a vampire. So yeah. All right. So every actor in this show is Marsters because we just love him that much. Got it.
yes,
So
Because we can't afford.
I can't wait to
else.
hear him.
it's over
either-
budget. We just give the whole half of what we were going to spend on every other celebrity. Just give it to him and then keep the rest.
Yeah. Because Marsters can act, I want to hear his Middle Eastern accent and his Norwegian one in different roles, wearing different robes, as opposed to like Sean Connery, who would just be Scottish in both roles.
Actually,
so.
I think what we should do is we should have everyone that's famously played a vampire, like David Boreanaz and Gary Oldman, but have them play not a single vampire. None of them. They have to play something else entirely.
That'd be funny. That'd be a nice twist because like What We Do in the Shadows did a lot of that. They brought a lot of, vampire actors back and stuff. Not all of them because there's so many, but
And
many,
some are dead,
so
unfortunately.
well, undead. So anyway, let's see. Okay, so yeah, I didn't go through like the entire interrogation scene and everything like that, but he goes in by himself, and Green is trying to chase him off, and Rick is being good cop because we're not actually sure Green could be a good cop, like or pretend to be. But Rick can at least pretend, and he's getting Molly water or whatever, and she's bawling, and they're bullying this little girl because she's 17, so like legally speaking. So Green tries to chase Dresden out, just telling him he's interfering with the investigation and stuff like that. And Dresden just keeps walking and ignoring Green and talking to Molly. And Rick's facade starts to drop and be like, no, really, dude, you're just going to make this harder on him. It's like, yeah, see, I don't think so, because what you don't seem to realize is that she's a minor and she's not allowed, like, you're not allowed to question her without her parents. And it's like, oh, what? You didn't tell her that? Oh my gosh, and just going through all this stuff, and Green finally gets pissed off and like flees the room and everything like that. Well, after Lydia comes in, because it's like, you've got no proof, it's your word against mine, and it's actually, no, it's your word against yours, Zootopia. But because Lydia comes in with the recorder and starts asking a bunch of uncomfortable questions, and she chases him out of the room, still asking questions that he's ignoring, and everything. And then Rick's like, he really could have you barred from the convention. It's like, yeah, but he's not gonna, because it's just gonna make things harder for him. And then Rick's like, you don't happen to have a gun, do you? What if I suspected you of having a gun? It's like, don't be a dick. And Murphy shows
That
up.
was actually
to
a pretty good threat. I
words.
remember Harry being kind of uncomfortable with it. It's like, you want me to suspect you
Yes.
of carrying a weapon unlicensed? And he's like, oh shit,
Right.
I do have a gun in my pocket.
What probable cause? You can't just search people willy-nilly. That's the problem, right?
Of course he can. He's a cop.
He's wearing a trench coat. That's all they need.
He's
Also
not, though. He's not wearing his trench coat because he doesn't get it back until Thomas shows up with it later.
Which is why it's more
Spoilers.
obvious when he's got the bulge of the gun.
Right. Very possibly, because you know how he likes his big guns. So,
Oh yeah.
But I think it's in his backpack with Bob. So, but in any case, and it's stupid that he brought it because he's already
carrying around a human skull.
Right.
Actually, he could do
And
that.
To be fair, at this convention, this is exactly where he should be having. But like, Bob should have just been on his hip anyway.
Right. Yeah. And anyway, like, I don't know why Dresden bothers with the gun. Like, maybe he uses it later and I haven't gotten to that point yet or whatever, but it's like he's seen cops shoot innocent bystanders multiple times. Like, and he's like, yes, well, I brought my gun because I needed a wet blanket on top of everything else. Like, I don't know. So, anyway,
he's learned enough to know that you got to shoot things and you got to have cardio. So just,
sure.
He takes his legs with him. He might as well take the gun. I am more interested in the fact that there's basically no security and no checkpoint or no anything that he can do that. But in Chicago, but that's a different issue.
Yeah, but it's also like Chicago a while ago. So
not
like, what would the contemporary year be?
Yeah, not that long
ago.
I lived in a pretty safe hometown, and the movie theater had metal detectors at it. Which, granted, they had a reason for that, but yeah, when you're in the city, the big city, so to speak.
Sure. Yeah, they still don't have metal detectors at movie theaters here. So that's not an invitation, you assholes. So anyway,
First, I'd have to come to Utah, and that's not happening.
Yeah. No, yeah. You are definitely not invited. So
no, I'm gonna go. I'm gonna.
You gotta leave.
Go to her state.
Yeah, you got to leave all your power on the threshold when you enter. So.
Oh, please. They couldn't stop me if they tried.
Okay, so all of this happens. Now he's linked back up with Murphy after she was doing a thing. And then they take an elevator ride up, which is funny because, he's already broken one of the elevators.
Yeah, why is he trusting this elevator?
Right. Why is he trusting this elevator? This happens twice in the next chapter. But anyway, so they go up and then they're talking about, should they or shouldn't they, and
it's
all of
very
this
reasonable
stuff.
Conversation. It went
timing's a little shit, but
timing is always shit for conversations like that. I mean, none of that's ever going to be good, but it's just being
362 days out of the year, he is not fighting xenomorphs and fetches.
We're not talking. We're not watching Dresden during those times, and it still would feel terrible.
We didn't see him have that conversation with Susan or Lucio.
That's because it didn't happen. I don't care what they say.
Susan did break up with him inside of a book when she left.
No, I'm talking about the will they won't they thing. He flirted with her and stuff like that, but I guess he just straight up asked her out, so they didn't have to have the conversation.
Sort of. And then at the end of Stormfront, when he was in the hospital, she was like, "Oh, look at the thing that I wrote," and I got to and now we're having dinner, right? Because you ruined the other one.
Sure.
But this was a reasonable conversation between adults of what do they want? What do they need? She wants children, and he's not ready for children. He already has one, and that we never know.
Which is bullshit, by the way. I don't know if we fell into that trope because she's Catholic, but she's going to give up her career to have some kids because she hasn't with Rick, and she hasn't with 2 other ex-husbands. So what's the hang up there?
Rick was the last one, and
she's had multiple though, right?
Yeah, but only 2.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so 2 versus 3. Either way, she's had time to have kids if she was going to. So laying that at Dresden's feet, that's
it's not necessarily the thing, but she's saying it's still something that she wants, and he's never going to be settled down for that, and he kind of reaffirms that. They're having Like, what do you want out of life? And we make sense as life partners?
I
And
would
at
also
that
like
point,
to
they
know when
didn't.
this mentality changed for her, since her mother pretty pointedly says your husband wanted to settle down and you didn't.
Right.
Yeah.
It's a one line, and I mean it's almost egregious enough to be a mistake, but it could just be an excuse from her, right? You
Yeah.
know, that she wants kids, and then like maybe in that moment she does, but she's trying to play the long game and whatever and pretend and whatever. No, she doesn't.
It's like by the time you're
Every
ready, you're not going to be able to have them anymore unless you're adopting.
Right. Exactly. You know, so and she could have adopted Maggie. So
What's her face?
sorry, I had to go through like 16 M names before I was like, right, Margaret, Maggie, you know. So yeah,
Madge,
Molly, Magnificent, motherfucker. Oh, okay.
Merlin.
Yeah, right. Okay, so they have the conversation. You're right as far as these conversations go. Mostly feelings were left intact, even though Dresden's, you know, hurt by it, because who doesn't get hurt to be rejected, even though it makes logical sense and, you know, he agrees with her and everything. But also, you know, let's see. You know, we haven't been in a hotel room alone together. Yes, we have. Yeah, but no corpses this time. The night is still young. So anyway, so yeah, they go back and forth. They talk about Kincaid. Let's see. You know, they talk about the fact that she's a cop and this means something, which again, in the same book, then it doesn't. So, you know, that'll be funny. They're in different worlds. Yeah. And then, you know, my final note from this is like Murphy wants to build a family, but like, especially for her, like if she had been a dude, right? Like obviously her dad did it, right? But it's like she has to carry children, and we're talking multiples, so 9 months apiece on average. Like, you know, that's years of not being a cop at some point, and she doesn't seem to have come to terms with the fact that like she will be physically incapable.
They fit inside a tactical vest.
Yeah. Unless she's just rocking a desk the entire time, right? Which is possible, but yeah, Murphy is incapable of that. We've seen it. It literally killed her. So, you know, spoilers. Okay. Yay. So hotel room is typical. It's clean and plain and empty, which is awesome because it's got so much room for activities like pouring sand to make a circle. You know, so he moves some furniture around, toss Bob in one of the empty dresser drawers. You know, they start. Oh, no, I think he does that when Molly shows up, actually. So let's see. Okay. Sorry, I pulled out the part where like Lashiel shows up and she's like, the perverted little creep has a point, my host. And he's like, hey, that's my perverted little creep. You shut up. So yeah, I think so Molly has shown up. She's in tears because Charity had come to pick her up, or was on her way anyway, and she wants to clean up before Charity gets there. So obviously
taking a shower.
Yes, the 17-year-old that Dresden has zero interest in beyond the fact that, you know, she's my friend's daughter. I mean, 1% interest in, you know, that he's like, yeah, sure, go use the room. And he doesn't do the smart thing and like wait outside the hotel room or literally anything else. So yeah. So Bob was like, you know, if you're gonna put me down, why don't you put me down in the bathroom at least, you know, or something like that. And then Lashiel is like, you know, being weird and practical in a weird way, but it's like, you know, like just saying, you know, you're weird about it. This isn't weird. From apparently a fallen angel's perspective. Yeah, we probably shouldn't take dating advice from a fallen angel. Yeah, that seems like a bad idea. So
I don't know. They would know.
Now, if Uriel showed up and said it's not against the bylaws, my dude, then that might be a stamp of approval. But like, you know,
it's definitely not against the bylaws if you read the book. So
oh no, sure.
They don't care.
Right. So anyway, now that we're canceled, So the universe
were on?
conspired against me. If Charity had asked the question 10 seconds sooner, I would have been fine. But instead, the bathroom door opened and Molly appeared in a swirl of steam. She had a towel wrapped around her hair and was holding another around her torso. Hotel towels and Molly's torso being what they were, the towel didn't quite get all the way around her and barely maintained modesty. Harry, I left my bag out. She broke off suddenly, staring at Charity. This isn't what it looks like, I stammered, turning back to Charity. Her eyes blazed with cold, righteous rage. An old Kipling axiom about the female of the species being more deadly than the male flashed through my mind right about the time that Charity introduced my chin to her right hook. Light flashed behind my eyes, and I found myself flat on my back while the ceiling spun around a little. Mother, Molly said in a shocked voice. So yeah, and then Father Forthill is there, and Dresden's like, what? I didn't even do anything. So it's like, for what it's worth, I believe you, but come on, Dresden. So
I mean, this is really stupid on Molly's part because she knew Charity and Forthill were on their way.
Right.
What was she hoping to do?
She thought she was going to get done first, so. But yeah.
Also teenage brain.
Yeah.
Which doesn't exist. I mean, Dresden's been carrying one around for 40 years.
To be fair, like, how does Charity know where his room is? In a giant hotel that has elevators, there's multiple floors. Like, did Molly tell her? Did Dresden?
How did Molly find out what his room was? I don't know. They just all know.
She at least works at the convention, so maybe somebody knew, but yeah. Right. So anyway, this whole scene is contrived,
Yes,
yeah, right.
Extremely.
She tracked him, so.
Mm-hmm. She used the blue, whatchamacallit? Play-Doh.
The Play-Doh. Yeah, she's like, find me the bigger piece. And it was like, yeah, that right up there. Room 256.
The Play-Doh and the sand. And she was like, yep, I know where he is.
Yeah, room 1456, because they had to have an elevator ride long enough to have this entire conversation. That's the other thing. This hotel is gigantic, because I recently stayed on like the 11th or 14th floor or something like that, and those elevators move fast. You can't have that entire conversation. So,
Chicago back in the day.
Right.
It's basically a dumbwaiter.
Yeah, right. They have Igor in the corner just pulling the rope.
It is the convention for it. They might as well.
Right. So, all right. Then he just dusts himself off and he decides to build his web and everything like that. Oh yeah, I think Murphy shows up at the end too, so that's part of it. And she's like, "You're an idiot, Dresden," because catchphrases. So
this is why we'll never work.
Yes, he let her in the room. That's consent. I don't know. It is, but it's not really what I was going for. So, okay, so he finishes setting up his spell and his ritual and, clearing his mind and everything. And he's kneeling in the circle and nothing happened. The sun set, leaving me mostly in the dark since I hadn't bothered to turn on any lights, and nothing continued happening. I knelt in my circle of stand until my legs cramped and then went numb. And then my knees felt like they were resting in molten lead. And all that nothing just kept on coming. Oh, come on. Bring on the doom already. So, from his spot near the door, Mouse heaved a sigh. Oh, shut up, I told him. So, Dresden doesn't want to take a break because he's trying to catch somebody who's got maybe 10 seconds to do the thing in case, what he wants to do. There was this whole conversation with Bob that I skipped over where it's like, he's going to use the web and he can't really do wards because it's not strong enough. There's no threshold or anything like that, but he is going to try and repoint the phobophages when they come through. And so he has to be ready because he's got about 10 seconds to confuse and redirect them when they cross over from the Never Never and whatnot. So,
this is the same problem he had in Blood Rights where he was waiting on the Malocchio.
Right. Eventually, Rollins comes to find him because Murphy's worried that, Dresden just up and died, or got murdered or something. Since everybody in the hotel knows where Dresden's room is, even the bad guys know. So she's like, Rollins, go find Dresden, make sure that the bad guy didn't murder him. Or Charity came back to finish the job. Who knows?
Probably not.
Yeah. Rollins thumped at the wall until he found the lights and flicked them on. He stared at me for a minute, eyebrows slowly rising. There's something I don't see every day. I grimaced. Murphy found you, I see? Almost like she's a detective, Rollins said, grinning. So, yeah. All right. So he finally does take a break. He eats some beef jerky, some chocolate, and drinks some Hawaiian punch that he's got in a canteen. You know, all dense sugar, calories, etc. So it's mostly smart. But as somebody who drinks water all the time, I'm like, where's the water? But it's also Dresden. He gets ready to do the spell again, then the phone rings, and we're like, aha, deja vu. And he goes answer it, and it's boyfriend Nelson, because everybody knows where his hotel room is. So now Nelson has called him. Nelson's being followed by something. He's pretty sure it's on the spooky side and whatever. And Dresden believes him in the sense that like Nelson believes that he's in trouble. So it's real enough. And he just tells him, go to St. Mary of the Angels, and I'll meet you as soon as I can. And unfortunately for Nelson, he prioritizes the pragmatic solution, which is he's got to protect as many people as he can, and he'll be mostly safe at St. Mary of the Angels, So we've got that. And then he pretty much hangs up the phone, and he feels like the webs start tingling. So he runs into the circle, closes it, and starts prepping his spell and panicking. There's 4 attackers. He rushes the spell, and then you get his little countdown as he slams all of his fear into the spell, which is what he was supposed to do. So
test failed successfully.
Right. Chapter 25, the spell coalesced and came to an abrupt stop. That illusory stasis, my senses were on fire. The presence of dangerous entities now entering the material world rippled through my detection web, a jittery, fluttering sensation. The energy of the spell burned with an invisible star before an outstretched hand, and my terror rushed into it and fused with the spell. Streamers from the lure whipped out along the lines of power that constituted my detection web. Goodness. Brushing slightly at the entities, attracting their attention, giving them a whiff of rich sustenance. And somewhere in the middle of that, I felt a single, quiet, quivering pulse, a living presence that could only be the Phage's summoner and beacon. Gotcha, I hissed, and with an effort broke the circle, and I sent the spell winging toward him. So,
sexist.
Yeah, curious on a bunch of levels, but importantly for this scene, I was thinking a little bit time stop, but as I'm describing it here, I think an even better way to do it would be like The Expanse, when the the Goths show up, and everything like that, and you get nearly bullet time where everything's moving at like 1% speed, and then you can see like the fetches like pushing through the never never and everything like that, and then Dresden finishes the spell and just snaps everything back to full speed. So that'd be fun. Yep. So anyway, the fetches came through. He got 3, but one of them's running around downstairs. So he grabs Bob and takes the freaking elevator. You idiot. Like, I don't understand. But since he's on the 100th floor of this hotel, what choice does he have? So
yeah, if this elevator is long enough to have that kind of conversation in, it's not quick enough for him to get downstairs. But you could fly downstairs better than an elevator.
He could have had that flying potion that he makes later and just leapt down the middle.
It's more the fact that the elevators have already gone out multiple times, including from his own doing. He's panicking, which makes it more likely that it's going to fail. And then what happens as soon as he gets down, because dramatic, then the power goes out, so he's got to force the doors open. And I was like, that could have happened the entire ride, right? Like he could have been stuck on the 7th floor. That's why he's an idiot. So it's like, I'm not arguing about which way was faster. The elevator probably was faster, but at the same time, like, it's not faster if you're stuck.
Yeah.
So, and he knows better. So anyway, he hits the lobby. The power goes out. He's got to use his staff to wedge open the doors. Freezing cold winter, So like he comes out and everything's freezing cold, and that's where I'm thinking like maybe this is winter, a clue about winter more than it is about fear. But again, things overlap, in these regards. But I don't remember if this one like is a fetch, and because they kind of wear a mask, who knows? But I don't remember if they're all if they're, because they're not all fetches. Some of them really are phobophages. This one, no.
I thought
Maybe this one is a phobophage because the other three. So my reasoning here, and this is going to take a moment, but it's like, so Harry gets all of this stuff to direct them towards the beacon, and they're fetches. So he basically said, hey, your target's over there. So that's why the three of them went after Molly, because those ones are fetches, but the phobophage stayed where the fear is, because I don't know. It's possible
I think it's fetches are in the category of phobophage. That's why
sure,
they're going at that. They're using the mask of the things that people are truly afraid of like hammer hands was the one thing that Pell was like, got scared from. They are phobophages. All fetches are phobophages.
But not all phobophages are fetches.
True.
Because Darby.
And I'm part of what I'm trying to pick up is, Darby's there, but he's been booked to be there for a while, but he was going to be there because it is a horror convention. Mm-hmm. And they also talked about, like Bob talked about, that it's like, you're going to get like, it's not copycats, but it's like, you're going to get strays. You're going to get other phobophages come in because it's blood in the water, sharks, right? Yep. Like, whatever the summoner brought is started stirring the pot, but you're going to get others. And, that's where they had talked about whether or not a veil would work, as well. And it's like, as if Dresden could even veil something like that. Would it even work? So anyway, so lots of description. I really like this scene. It's one of my first favorites because I think it was the first time in the series I had to go back and reread it because I'm just like reading along, just going. And then I'm like, wait, hold on, rewind. Did that just say what I thought it said? And I only solidified it when he said, get away from her, you bitch. Right. So obviously we've got description. Like I said, due to time, I'm going to skip it. Right.
It was the line that twigs it as you're going along.
Yeah, because it's like, it's plausibly deniable up to that point, but then you reread it and it's unmistakable, right? Mm-hmm. Once you've got that line in that context. So, so he's got his amulet going. He's moving through. We've got more fog because basically it went from, July heat, August heat, whatever it is, all the way down to much colder. So there's a natural fog now this time. A metallic piercing shriek hit my ears in a sudden stunning shock wave, and my legs stopped moving. I didn't choose to do it. The sound just hit something primitive in my brainstem, something that made my instincts scream to me to freeze and not be seen. I dropped to one knee, terror suddenly falling onto my shoulders like a physical weight. In the wake of the shriek, I could hear human throats screaming in fear nearby to me, and I could see the shape of people moving around, lumpy shadows in a faint light from my shield bracelet. Because he's still got the sparks because he doesn't fix it until after this book. So, and then, a woman turns on a cigarette lighter because like you do. See, again, anachronistic, right? Everybody vapes in this day and age. Like, who's got a cigarette lighter? So I'm kidding.
Smokers.
I'm kidding. But like 90% of the people that that smoke are vaping these days. So, so anyway, he yells at her to turn off the light.
Even at concerts, people are just waving their phones around instead of a lighter.
Sure. So I'm just saying we got to change it or decide to go all in on the history. So, so her face swivels towards him, towards Dresden, and then she gets tackled by, a mountain lion, which I got to say, Xenomorph's quite a bit larger than a mountain lion, in my opinion.
Just a bit.
Yeah. And like three-ish because times. Get away from her, you bitch. It's the Xenomorph queen specifically. It's not just a Xenomorph. So the thing is like 3 stories tall.
No, well, no. Yeah. I mean, he's not saying it because it's the queen. He's saying it because it's a Xenomorph. So, But yeah, because he also goes back to like, is this going to be a stand-up fight or another bug hunt? Which
I guess he's mixing
they
the
say
movie.
before they
Or
even.
no, that's the same movie. But
It's the same movie. Just quotes are out of order and stuff. So yeah, he's just making references because he gets it, and I don't remember picking it up on this read through, so it's got to be later. But it's like yeah, I think he's like talking to Mab or somebody, but like denizens of the Never Never wouldn't catch a pop culture reference if it skittered up to them and implanted an embryo in their esophagus. And I was like, wow, dude, graphic, but understood, So anyway, so yeah, he kicks this thing's ass all up and down the hallway and just kind of lucks out that everybody has run away, I guess, because it still has acid for blood, even though it's basically an illusion. So there's that. He kicks its ass in a way that he has not before, using too much hellfire, slamming it up into the ceiling, acid rain, all of that stuff. And then, Rollins shows up and is like, oh my God. And, basically everything looks like, people have been in a blender. And then he's like, okay, check this one. She's the latest victim. And it's like, she's dead. And then Dresden has a crisis of like, but she was alive like a minute ago. And I was like, if I had let the thing run, would she still be alive? And I was like, I mean, but if you had let the thing run, how many other people would have been dead? I think that's unfortunately we're dealing with the cold calculation, which he's also mentioned. I think he even mentions in this scene actually, because Murphy shows up and starts ordering for triage and whatnot.
Rick is injured at some point in this, right?
Yeah, he got gut shot by presumably by a civilian, but other cops also were blasting away, right? And there's other wounded and everything like that too. So
yeah, because this is when she takes control of the scene and then later absconds, and that's some of the problem.
Yeah. I don't know what happened to Green, because like he's the detective in charge, and then after the interrogation he disappears, and so like Rick is still around, but then Murphy shows up and she's like, I've got to organize this clusterfuck. But then she tells Rollins to babysit, and then she starts barking orders at other, nearby cops, get over there and help the wounded, airway bleeding, heartbeat, move, and she yells back to Stallings, which is part of why I get these two guys confused half the time, because they're there at the same time, so Stallings and Rollins, super different names. But she yells back up the hallway and he's calling ambulances and stuff like that. So, so very crazy. And it's like, and then Murphy eventually comes back and is like, so did the spell work? Mostly, but I missed one. Is it still? No, I picked up the spare, so yeah, him beating himself up about losing the girl, totally understandable, but like, in 5 minutes it dropped 4 people at least, so it's like chasing it through the hallways of the convention, worse move, right? Stopping it then and there unfortunately was the pragmatic choice. So so then Murphy tells Rollins to stay with them and whatever. He's like, shoot, like I got nothing better to do, for babysitting. So suffer, she told him. But she smiled when she said it and put her hand on my arm and squeezed hard, letting out some of the pressure behind her calm facade through the contact. Then she strode over to the rubbernecking suits. So probably FBI, maybe, hopefully Internal Affairs isn't like there to like do stuff already. So, oh, okay. I forgot. So, so Green is there. He also gets injured. He's got a concussion. So, so that's another part of it. But, he's finds out Harry and Rollins are there. It's like, Rollins, I told you to go home, like you're disobeying my orders, and starts to be a dick about it. And Harry literally does a Jedi mind trick, but mostly abusing his mental state, because he's like, that's not Rollins, and it's like, it's not magic. I've just been hit in the dome a bunch of times myself, so So he gets all confused and everything. And then Rollins arches an eyebrow. You ever handle any divorce negotiations? So, yeah. Come on before his brains unscramble. So they're going in through the garage, and then Glau hits Mouse with the van. Bastard.
Mm.
And Darby hits Dresden with a tire iron. Bastard. And then Glau puts a gun on Rollins and gets him into the van. So anyways, they get kidnapped. But just trying to figure out where we're going to cut this. So got a few more chapters. This one's fast though. Dresden wakes up in a garage, a particular garage. So I guess we're going to need to like rent the same building or keep that set or something for like 6 seasons, or rebuild it.
Not being used,
who knows?
but just keep it.
Right. Yeah. That's a thing people do. Unlimited money. All right. That's rule number 1. So he's in the garage. He's shackled to a concrete slab with thorn manacles. For some reason, he goes through this whole thing about like what the origin of the manacles are and whether or not they were, made by Nicodemus or Fairy Maker or whatever. Lashiel seems to think that ogres made them. So that's a big old clue, because he's able to use, steel to break out of them. And also they don't do so hot with sunlight, but he's fresh out of sunlight for the next few hours. So, yeah, I don't remember who this is towards, but yeah, I think it's Lashiel. But it's like, anybody tell you that you have a very negative attitude? So they do the mind, conference thing again, just like he did in Deadbeat. So basically he gets the plans and she teaches him the yogi thing, how to dislocate his thumb so he can get the manacles off, and helps him, understand where the wrench is and stuff. Mostly mundane help, right? Other than some like skills and techniques that he wouldn't otherwise have time to learn or have learned. And then later, here in a little bit, it'll be a really cool scene of like black and white, very Riddick, and everything.
Seeing the outlines of the room in the dark, because she's projecting it onto his mind.
Right. Yep. So, yeah. Rollins being just a gem, it's like, how are you going to slip your cuffs? Ever heard about yogis out east? Yogi Berra and Yogi Bear. Not those yogis, snake charmers. Oh, right. So, yeah. Rollins, super competent, possibly even dumber than Dresden sometimes, but funny while he's doing it.
He knows the limits of his knowledge, just like he knows Yogi Berra and Yogi Bear.
Sure, yeah. Yep.
Explain more.
Yeah, he went to the yogi box. He's got a yogi box in his mind, his mental palace, and he's like, nope, that's what I got. So we're like, thank you, but unhelpful. So, yeah. So Dresden picks up a couple of spare beer bottles and tags the work light, so now it's dark. And then he thinks now, and the darkness vanished, replaced with lines and planes of silver light that outline the garage, the truck, and the tool cabinet and workbenches, as well as the doors and windows and the bolt on the wall where Rollins was chained. So
interrupt for a second, because you have skipped over the conversation with Darby to explain that he is being auctioned off on eBay.
Yes, that's true. Like I said, if I read like everything, we're never going to get anywhere. But
we do have to, like, okay, Darby's on a cell phone,
yes,
like wandering around, being upset. Like, no, that's not high enough price. Come on,
right?
And who is possibly going to purchase Harry Dresden Wizard slightly used on eBay?
Right. Yeah. Ortega's wife, is among the highest bids. She's like winning right now. So
Nicodemus might.
Presumably. Yeah. Possibly some other petty grievances, So yeah, there's a few, because there has to be enough for a bidding war, right? Mm-hmm. So it's like,
Lara might do you think for a lark?
Yeah. Or do you think the Black Council has a representative, just to see if they could get him easy? So yeah. Yeah, he does talk to him also about the White Council putting out a bid. It's like, oh yeah, I already called them, and they said that they have an unyielding policy to not negotiate with terrorists. So Dresden doesn't rate. So yeah, they left him out to dry.
conveniently,
Like,
they have that policy now
yeah,
and not
right,
in Summer Night.
right, or like, yeah, like when vampires take wizards, right? They usually
Mhm.
come down on them like a ton of bricks. So like unless they were just like, we're not going to negotiate, but we've got, our crack team of wardens back here getting ready to go in and make sure that, the Red Court doesn't get Dresden and turn him into a freaking Red Court vampire, because that seems like a bad play. That they would do that 100% for anybody on the senior council. So,
It's kind of funny how this never really comes back. Of like they're saying, "Oh, you're talking to the White Court vampires too much, and we need to figure out if you're trustworthy or not." Like they didn't try to save him from the White Court vampire that was auctioning him off, and they just left him there.
right. Yep. Yep. All right. So lots of other stuff. Glau and Crane trying to, cover him, chase him, that sort of thing. Because he can see, it's kind of like a superpower. He can see anything that is dynamic is left out of the illusion or dropped out of the illusion, etc. So there's this really cool scene where he like throws a beer bottle at his feet and then it just vanishes as soon as it leaves his hand, because she like doesn't even bother to project the illusion or whatever. But then I think this is the one that makes Darby think he's running for the door when he just stays there. Is like a double fake, and then he goes over and like breaks the bolt for Rollins and starts pushing him through the hole. And then Dresden starts going through the hole and has, these terrified, imaginings of like his legs getting grabbed right as Glau grabs his legs and everything like that. So he gets
waiting for the
away.
jump scare.
Right. He gets away. Glau wriggles out of the hole just as we had, rose to a crouch and threw a claw hammer. It tumbled end over end, flying as swiftly as a major league fastball and hit me in the ass. Please stop hitting my ass. So yeah, he goes down, and then I think Glau just like tackles Rollins because Rollins is kind of like limping and stuff like that. And then Glau draws a long curved blade from his belt, something vaguely Arabic in origin. He bounded after us. It was hopeless, but Rollins and I tried to run away. There were a couple of light footsteps, a blurring figure running far too swiftly to be human, and Crane kicked my functional leg out from underneath me. I dropped. He delivered a vicious blow to Rollins' belly. The cop went down too. Crane, his face pale and furious, snarled, "I warned you to behave, wizard. You've just killed this man." So the next scene's super cool. So we're just going to have to start with that next time. So,
okay.
But
it's cliffhanger.
Yeah. It was going to end in a cliffhanger anyway, because,
it always does.
Yeah. Well, chapter 30 ends with Mom, come quick. He's awake, so it's like, it was going to be this or that. So we made it up to chapter 28. So pretty good progress, not 10 chapters, but yeah. They're just long, really action-packed chapters. These
and
ones
we had
were,
to have a digression about a picture in the beginning.
Yes.
Just a picture.
Yeah, that took like 5 minutes. So, but yeah, so there you have it. We'll do more next time, and yeah. What are we doing next week? Do we have a topic?
Bebop, I think.
Cowboy Bebop.
We're finally going back to that now that Ben has resurrected himself from moving.
Excellent.
All right.
Cool.
And see.
Andreas, do the thing.